This video is sponsored by PlayStation. Thank you so much for the early access, and I hope you guys all enjoy. Alright, so in today's video, I got a chance to play Saros before release, and I managed to get every single trophy on the game, including the Platinum Trophy. This is the first time I've ever in my career of Platinuming games managed to do it before the game is even out, so this truly was a very fun experience, and again, thank you so much to PlayStation for sponsoring this video. Saros releases on April 30th, if you were wondering. But before I do get too far ahead of myself, Saros is a brand new game from Housemarque Studios, the same people that made Returnal, and it features an entirely new story that will unfold as you play throughout the game in one of the most mysterious ways imaginable. But in terms of trophies, the game contains 45 total, including the Platinum. It took me just over 25 hours to complete, and nothing in it is missable at all. Also, people are rating it at about a 3 to a 4 out of 10 for difficulty, which is honestly fair enough. So without further ado, let us dive into the Saros Platinum Trophy experience. So starting off with the stages for this game's Platinum, I'm only going to give it 2 stages because again, nothing is missable and it's all very straightforward. Stage 1 is going to be our general story stage where we play through the game and, just complete it. Stage 2, however, is going to be the cleanup of any trophies after, because this game does not just end once you beat it. You can still go back and do anything, play everything. It's a very solid post-game functioning video game. Now, the story of Saros itself gets explained pretty much entirely right off the bat with some text on the screen. A company named Soltari has discovered a mineral-rich planet and sends numerous survey teams to figure out what's on the planet, where all the goods are at, and what's happening to all the people they are sending there. So ultimately, we get sent in on Echelon Team 4 as an emergency team to, find the other teams that have been sent here and are no longer responsive. The game then opens up to see us playing as the main character of the day named Arjun. Now, for the first few minutes of gameplay, it's largely all tutorial into how this game works, the various combat mechanics, parrying, dodging, shooting, etc., all of the above, very basic. But you ultimately end up running into a massive boss fight against an enemy named the Consort. Now, as far as I know, you can't beat this boss, and your death is a part of story flow, so I feel absolutely no shame in saying that I did die pretty quickly, only doing about half the boss's health and damage. But upon dying, I did get my first trophy of the game called Come Back Stronger from dying for the first time. And after that death, the game then went through numerous very ominous and very cool cinematics, rolling some credits as well because, shout out, duh. But this all leads into us being reborn in a sense at the base of today through this very disturbing sort of birth out of the ground. And this is what we call the Come Back Stronger mechanic, a staple of this game where every time you die, you come back. There is no explanation to this for the most part, aside from, our job just isn't finished yet. However, throughout the story, the more and more times we die, the more and more the other characters of this game around us begin to lose their minds, more and more. It's honestly fascinating how this game portrays the dive into insanity that genuinely does occur for everybody inside of it. I loved every moment of seeing the characters unwind within themselves. Maybe I am a psychopath. But anyways, we then meet a few characters, and I'm not going to go super in depth with, every single moment of this game, because I want to give you guys a chance to enjoy it the way you should. But long story short, we just got sent out again to explore and try to find clues as to what's happening around us. The map also does shift every time you do go out, so new things sometimes appear in areas where there was nothing before them. The first biome of this game, by the way, is called Shattered Rise, and there is a multitude of biomes throughout the game, all for the most part getting harder every time you reach them. But the way the actual story does get progressed in this game is by just making it through these ever-challenging biomes as they get harder and harder the further you progress. Enemies are inside them like absolute wildfire. There's environmental hazards, parkour, anything can kill you in here. And the game also does not really hint at what you're supposed to do other than a few map markers to make sure we are headed in the right direction, which I absolutely love. The mystery of Saros is one of the biggest appeals of the game when playing it. Just not having any idea what could happen next. But eventually I did get my next trophy, and it was a combat trophy, which this game is heavily infested with, and I absolutely love that. This might be the first game I've ever played in my life where not a single collectible trophy is inside of it. I nearly forgot to say that because of how nice that actually is. But this trophy was called Relentless from just landing 50 consecutive shots on hostiles with rifles. Spray and pray, baby, that's really all it takes, and I guarantee you'll get this naturally like I did right here. Obviously, doing this on a strong enemy also does make it easier because all 50 shots can be invested into one enemy, and here's a trophy pop. Now, other than just main weapons, whether it be a rifle or a pistol that you find throughout loot boxes in the game, you also get access to a power weapon that sort of gets charged up as you kill enemies and gather blue orbs. There is about 4 of these, I believe, if my dementia isn't kicking in right now, and the one I had right now, also my personal favorite, is called a Prominence Blast. Essentially, it's just a missile that you send off at enemies and it explodes, doing a plethora of damage. I would also get 5 enemies killed with a single blast of it once I ran into these very creepy flying things. Yes, I did this out of sheer fear, and the trophy popped right here. Now, a few moments after that, I also ran into my first of many areas where you need to reach into this pit of sorts with hands rising out of it. Upon doing so, a very cool cutscene happens happens, showing an eclipse occur, and this then makes our world harder. All the enemies are stronger, more aggressive, and also it opens up previously inaccessible pathways like this door right in front of me. And this also led me into the very first boss of the game and the first biome named the Prophet. Now the Prophet boss fight is actually very easy. Without a doubt, in my opinion, the easiest boss of the game. And that's mainly because it just doesn't move at all. It just sends out attacks here and there while you are damaging it. But there also is a gimmick to this fight, and you have to shoot his little minions off to the side of him to open it up for us to be able to actually damage it. There also is 3 health bars, but again, this boss does not do much damage. I know I did barely survive it, but this is about 1 hour into the game for me, so I had very minimal upgrades at this point. And upon winning the fight against the Prophet, I again would get a trophy from doing so. Now moving on from that boss fight, I also unlocked this new ability called a second chance, which essentially is exactly what it says. If you ever die, you get a second chance and just come back right away. Although you don't get much HP, unfortunately. However, dying with a second chance for the first time is a trophy, and I got that right here almost right away during the next biome I wandered into, so here's that trophy pop. This new area I wandered into, by the way, is called the Ancient Depths, and it honestly has a lot of puzzles, or at least you have to do a lot of sidetracking to progress through it, because you have to activate these 2 corresponding devices to open the vault within. While doing this, I also did get another combat trophy called Approach Vector from dispatching a shielded enemy with a mid-air melee attack. And all this means is you jump up and then melee kill a shielded enemy. Shielded enemies are an extremely common enemy, so again, it's a very easy trophy, and here it is popping. Now a little bit later during this area, while still trying to get the vault open, I ended up getting another combat trophy called Break the Cycle from absorbing 2021 projectiles using the shield. Little Easter egg reference there as well in the trophy name, which is awesome. But again, the trophy is easy. Just hold the shield up as a ton of blue orbs come at you, and you should get this no problem like I did right here. But moving on, after quite some time, I did finally reach the final vault device I needed to open, and after doing so, I got the vault open. Now inside the Ancient Depths vault is another boss fight, as you would expect. Every biome of this game, by the way, for the most part has a boss fight tied to them if you couldn't already assume that, but this one is called the Bastion, and it is a far more challenging fight than the previous boss battle that we did. However, again, the boss does not move, which is kind of an odd coincidence seeing it now, but it does attack you far more aggressively than the previous boss. And in between its attacking stages, a bunch of mini enemies also do pop up that you have to take out before being able to continue the boss fight. And funnily enough, I would end up dying in this fight at the very end of it. Nothing hurts more in my soul than this right here. I'm not gonna lie, I cried a little bit after. But like always, we come back stronger, baby, and I mean that quite literally. Every single time after you die, you always should try to upgrade something with the materials you earn on that run, so you know you literally do come back stronger, even if it is just a few upgrades, which can make a difference, by the way. Anyways, I then had to work back to that boss fight again by going through the same puzzle of sorts. While doing this, I also got another combat trophy called Enforcer from damaging 7 hostiles within 5 seconds with a hand cannon. Now this is a bit of a random trophy requirement, but the hand cannon has a few variants, and one of them is a ricochet version. Now I personally love that one because it hits like every enemy in the area at once, and it does a ton of damage, and that's exactly how I got this trophy. Easy peasy, baby. But then I did make it back to the Bastion boss fight, and again, I was nearing the verge of no longer existing, but somehow I managed to clutch it up. I guess we truly did come back stronger, and upon winning the fight, I got the Bastion trophy pop. We then headed back to home base, some more happened, wink wink, and we were then back at it again with the next biome needing our completion being called the Shattered Descent Colony, because there actually is a few parts to this one with how long and full it is. Now since this is the 3rd biome, the enemies did get a bit harder. I also did run a little dry in terms of trophies here, not getting any throughout my climb to the next boss, but this 3rd biome was also very fast. I don't know if it's the fastest in the game, but it's definitely up there with them, and the boss fight itself is also very easy and fast, being against a creature called the Robdom, and it's so easy due to it only having 1 health bar and, you know, not 3 like usual. And you're probably wondering if I beat it first try, and to that I have to say yes I did. However, it was not clean, and I more tripped over the finish line opposed to valiantly crossing it. However, the trophy popped regardless, and we have now finished biome 3. The next area was then called Shattered Descent, the Bridge Controls. It's called this because the entire area is all about us powering up a bridge to carry us to our next destination and boss fight. It's actually a lot like the vault area from a bit ago with, you know, that whole 2 different paths thing that you need to do. But yeah, anyways, this area wasn't really that hard. This might be because I finally got used to the game's nature and locked in, if you will. And during it, I got another combat trophy called All Shall Bow from hitting 3 enemies at once with a crossbow. Funny little trophy name yet again, shout out developers. But this is very easy because, again, a crossbow variant has some sort of ricochet thing on it, and yeah, very easy trophy pop. But unfortunately, for the next hour to 2 hours, I didn't get any trophies until finally getting the bridge powered back up and riding to the top to fight the boss of this place, being named Legion. And this boss is also very easy. Not as easy as the previous one, but nowhere near as hard as as the Bastion boss. Yes, I did also do this one first try, just like the previous boss. But yeah, the fight overall is very simple, and I won without much issue. Actually, I'm just kidding. I did die in the middle of it, but I had a second chance still because I hadn't yet died on this run. So that, you know, helped push me over the finish line, and after that, I won the fight. And I again got the boss's trophy pop. Moving on from that, we then headed to the home base, and like I mentioned earlier, all the characters around us are losing their minds, genuinely going insane. But after that cutscene happened, I noticed that upstairs in this room, this tree here was opened up. So I walked up to it and decided to enter it out of pure curiosity. Also getting a trophy from that from entering the Banyan tree for the first time. Now this tree will occasionally open up after you beat a boss or just finish a story moment, and it's sort of an extension of the story, and it just gives us more lore into the life we lived before, you know, coming to this godforsaken land. It's all very, very cool, and it's a very nice switch of pace opposed to us, you know, just annihilating these aliens. A few trophies are tied to this, by the way, from completing every single instance of it and getting an alternate ending of the game, so just keep an eye out as you do play. Anyways, moving on with the story, I was then inside the next area, being the Blighted Marsh. And all of these places, by the way, we are accessing through this little teleporter thing called the primary and inside the world dial. All these areas show up as you unlock more and more, and they show some cool stats to the side. Inside the primary, you can also access the upgrade tree of this game, modifiers which make this game very, very easy if you want to speedrun its platinum and are afraid of a challenge. I never used them until stage 2 of the game, so yeah, get on my level. Anyways, back to the Blighted Marsh area, I got another combat trophy during it called Atrophy from damaging 5 hostiles simultaneously with the Disruptor projectiles. The Disruptor is another type of ultimate gun, but this one just kind of like corrupts the enemies, taking away a large portion of their health, which you then have to damage to activate it, I believe. I'm not really too sure. I didn't really use this power up much. I like some of the others far more. But this trophy isn't hard, and I got it completely naturally again right here. I then played quite a bit more before getting my next trophy, which was called Angle of Attack, from just getting a kill with a ricocheting Nova Lance slug. Again, this is another power weapon, and this one you do have to charge it before shooting it. It does a ton of damage, but it can be kind of hard to hit shots with since it's just one projectile and it's easy to miss. But as you can tell, it does ricochet, and quite literally, as soon as I picked it up and shot it one time, I got the trophy. So again, another very natural trophy pop. Anyways, moving on, I then reached the boss of this area, which was a very horrifying bird named the Architect. Now this fight was genuinely hard. I struggled a lot. However, I found that if you just attack the boss and then fall off this side of it when it attacks you back, you can kind of avoid its damage entirely and then just press triangle to grapple back up. Little tip for y'all if you need it. And using that strategy, I did win, I think, first try again, so here's the trophy pop as well. That also did lead us into finishing Act 1 of 3 in the game. Now after that, some cutscenes happen, and we find out a lot of lore between Arjun, our main character, and his girlfriend, I'm pretty sure, at least girlfriend at some point. Again, I'm not going to go in depth because the game just dropped and I don't want to spoil anything, but after all of that, the Act 1 trophy popped called Never Let Go. So the next area I went to was called Acolytes Haven, and if I'm being honest, I did get a few of these areas mixed up in my head when playing because they do kind of merge together in some spots, which isn't bad. It just makes it hard to track exactly where I am, especially since these recordings are all a bit old. You know, shout out to PlayStation again for the early access. But in this area, we're basically just chasing down the girl that Arjun just saw in those cutscenes, and that's also like the plot for the rest of this game, finding any way possible to see her again. But I did get a trophy right here called Catch and Release from using the shield and absorbing 3 power bars and then using that power on our power weapon to defeat an enemy. Very easy, and I guarantee you'll get this naturally again like I did right here. And at this point in the game, since you know we are many hours in, the band-aid has been fully ripped off, and I didn't achieve anything of note or get any trophies for about 3 full hours of gameplay. Call it a skill issue if you want, but I finally did get one right here, and it was called Vincible, from completing a biome without using the shield. I also vividly remember doing this on complete accident because I just completely forgot to use the shield. Literally by being an idiot, I got this trophy. That's very funny, and here it is. However, after that, I did finally reach the boss of Acolytes Haven, and it's called Shepherd. The fight also entirely takes place on a boat, and it's almost like we were fighting the Kraken or something. But the fight isn't really that hard, and I think it's because we were confined to such a solitary place, being just this tiny boat platform. It actually made it easy to dodge attacks with them all coming very much in succession of each other. So yeah, again, once winning the fight, I got the trophy pop, and here it is. That then led us into the Cathedral area, which is the second to last area of the game, I believe, and it's also one of the hardest. I spent hours upon hours here, dying, but getting stronger, and then dying again, until I completed it fully. Throughout all of this struggle, I got numerous trophies. My first was just from using a new power weapon called Illumine, and damaging 3 enemies at once. This is very easy because this power weapon sort of does that on its own when you aim at others, so it's very much natural. Here it is popping. Now my next 2 then came nearly back to back, called Bullet Paradise from getting 1995 kills on regular enemies, and Carcass Conqueror from defeating 10 alphas. Now first was the Carcass Conqueror trophy, which was again from getting the 10 alphas killed, and these enemies just have more HP, so yeah, it's pretty simple. Here's the trophy pop right here. Now right after, I then got another, which was the 1995 normal enemy kills, and again, this is natural, so here's the trophy popping as well. So I then got one more trophy before the boss of the Cathedral, and it's It took a while to get, but it was called Spread the Cost from landing 7 consecutive shots on a shotgun with 100% pellet accuracy. And I actually somehow did this during the boss fight, which was against the enemy called the Priestess. This fight is also not that bad. All you really do during it is just hit these bells that ring and make the boss damageable, and that's about it. So yeah, once I defeated her, I apparently also hit the 7 shots in a row, and I got that trophy right here, and then also the boss trophy, which is very funny. I don't know how I managed to do that, but okay. Also, some more lore cutscenes happened after, and then that finished Act 2 of the game with another trophy pop. So it is now time for Act 3, which is the final of the game. It all takes place in the Yellow Shore, which is a new biome that opened up, and it's not a part of the world dial. Instead, you just walk into it from the home base and get teleported. But this area is very, very hard, without a doubt the most challenging of the game, and I spend quite some time here, both right now and later on after for, you know, I won't spoil it quite yet. But literally all you do is go through 3 main areas to reach the shore and then fight the final boss of the game called the King. While trekking over there, I got 3 trophies. First, from collecting 20 integrity augments, which is a type of loot pickup, then collecting 70 Helicon total, which is used in upgrades, and then collecting 20 Helicon total in the Yellow Shore. So yeah, pretty much all just pickup trophies. They're not really collectibles because it's just from loot, so yeah, here are all those popping. But then I did make it to the shore and we fought the King. This is the final boss fight, as I just said, and it's pretty hard. However, it's not impossible, and I managed to do it somehow first try. Now, before spoiling it, here's a trophy pop. But then a bunch of insane cutscenes happened. Long story short, our boy Arjun here then becomes the King after defeating him, and yeah, we basically came full circle and are now in charge of this world. So the rest is up for interpretation because credits then rolled. Crazy good ending, very mysterious to a crazy good game, and yeah, I know I didn't really mention much of the in-depth lore, but again, that's for you to find out by playing it. I also did receive the Blazing Throne trophy after from finishing Act 3 of the game. However, that isn't quite the actual ending because there is an alternative ending from completing all of the epilogue requirements and defeating the King again. But instead of finishing him off, you just walk away. Before that, however, I did get 2 trophies. First, from just unlocking and using all traits of a weapon, and I'm not really sure how I did this, it was just from naturally playing once again. And then I got the Shattered Glass trophy from completing and seeing every encounter in the Banyan tree. Again, this just goes more in depth with our life, and it's very cool. But then I did go for the Let Go trophy, and I honestly struggled beating the King again. I'm not sure if he got harder or if I just got worse at the game, but it took me multiple tries to beat him again. However, once I finally did, all you have to do is walk away from the guy and interact with the obvious other thing here. Once crossing it, a cutscene then happens. We see our boy not turn into the King after beating him, and I guess we escaped the loop with a trophy popping from that as well. So now it is time for stage 2. With everything in the story now complete, it's just a cleanup of our remaining trophies, all of which are fairly easy, and you might already have a few of these, if not all of them at this point. The first one I did was from using the Chakram to damage 4 enemies within 2 seconds. Again, this is just a simple combat trophy, and this gun also does ricochet in its own way, so it's very much natural, and here it is popping. I didn't get that while playing because, to be honest, I just never used that gun type, so yeah, my apologies. I then did the War Within trophy, which was a bit hard, but it's from reaching maximum corruption and then surviving. Now, my strategy to do this was first to just get maximum corruption from any enemy that did yellow orb damage. After seeing I was at max, I then just tried not to die, and you really do have to make sure not to because you're going to be very low on health, probably nearly 1 hit, but overall it's not that hard, and after reaching the next biome, the trophy will pop if you did it right. I then went after a bit of a joke trophy next from dying 3 times in a single cycle or run of the game. This can be done by first using up your second chance death and then completing a Nightmare Gate, which is like this side path that leads into a hard minigame fight of sorts against a lot of tough enemies, but after surviving that, you get a lot of loot and also a second chance replenish. So then all you have to do is just die again, and then once more after when coming back from your second chance death to get 3 total deaths. Very simple, not challenging. Here the trophy pop. I then began chasing down the trophy called Full Arsenal from unlocking all main and power weapons and defeating 25 enemies with each of them. Now this is a bit confusing because the game does not track your guns for you to see, so you kind of have to guess by just swapping them out after seeing the tracker not move. I ended up nearly having them all besides 1 gun at the very end, so I actually got this super easily, and here it is popping. Very nice indeed. I then went after a very annoying trophy called Untouchable from completing an entire biome without taking a hit. A single hit. You cannot get touched by anything throughout the entire biome and boss fight. It's not easy as you can imagine since enemies send hundreds of attacks at you per fight. Now PowerPix's guide on this game suggested biome 3 as the best route because you can't just run past enemies to get to the boss fight, but I found that to be a bit annoying since the boss fight of that area is very aggressive, so I instead just did the very first biome because that boss is far easier. It was a bit challenging because, you know, in general avoiding everything is hard, but after a lot of runs, a lot of practice, I finally did it and I got a trophy right here. By far that is the hardest trophy of the game, so once you do that, you're pretty much in the clear. Now my next trophy was called Nightmare Strands from completing all 7 Nightmare Gates. A Nightmare Gate, as I said, is just a side path extra fight against some very hard enemies for good loot. There is one on every biome for the most part, and I was only missing 1. But after replaying the Cathedral and doing its Nightmare Gate, I got the trophy because I remembered vividly never doing this once as I was already getting destroyed by normal enemies, so here's the trophy pop. Now all my remaining trophies are sort of random. First, from just getting 30 kills with Overdrive, which is our ultimate ability that just unleashes a big explosion, and this is done by playing through multiple biomes and trying your best to get as many kills as possible with the move whenever it's charged up. It took me about an hour of a run to get this, but I did it right here, and here it is popping. I then got the trophy Counterman from staggering 2 hostiles with 1 parry. Now this might sound hard, but anytime you see red orbs from anything, just line up 2 or more enemies in front of you and then parry the red orbs to send the stagger attack at the enemies, and you should get this pretty easily. I got it right here, and yeah, not as bad as it sounds. My next trophy was then called Carcassan Cartographer from using modifiers and surviving 33 expeditions. I had about 22 done by the time I needed to farm it, and I just replayed biome 3 over and over and over because it is the fastest biome in the game, and it allows you to run past every enemy and then just do the boss fight. So I did that about 10 times. I got a trophy popper right here. My final trophy in the game was then called Fall from Grace. Now this trophy is one of the hardest ones just because finding an enemy for it is very challenging. But you have to use the environment to kill an enemy without shooting it. This means you need to parry an enemy that is over the void, and then have them fall down into it into their own death. And my tip for this and how I did it was by going to the Cathedral and finding the many flying enemies there. Now not all of them do fall when they're parried and staggered into the void, but a few of them in particular do for whatever reason. And once I noticed that one of them was falling, I just lined it up and I watched this guy ever so slowly dip into his own death, the trophy popping and the platinum trophy on Saros. The sun is forever. So that was the Saros platinum trophy experience. Once more, huge thanks to PlayStation for sponsoring this video. Saros comes out on April 30th, so by the time you see this, it's most likely already ready to play, and yeah, it's a banger. Without a doubt, some of the most fun I've had platinuming a game in a very long time. The story is amazing, it's very mysterious, it comes full circle, and yeah, I can't recommend it anymore. Please try it out for yourself, and that's all from me. Thanks for watching, peace out.